Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to, well, really getting to grips with things. Today, we're diving into something that touches pretty much all of us, the search for warmer homes, more efficient energy use, and, let's face it, dealing with those energy bills. It's a big deal, not just for our comfort, but also for climate goals and, really importantly, tackling fuel poverty. So let's unpack this. We've got this government document here, Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. It's called Consultation on Extending the ECO4 End Date. Now, these consultations, they can seem a bit heavy going, right? But our job today is to cut through that. We'll explain what ECO4 actually is, why they're even talking about extending it, what changes they might make, and, crucially, how that could affect households like yours and the whole energy efficiency scene. Think of this as your quick guide to understanding a pretty vital government plan.
And what's really striking, I think, is the timing. It was published in August 2025, but they want feedback by September 25th, 2025. That's incredibly fast. It really tells you there's pressure to make a decision quickly on this scheme. It's, policy in motion, needing fast action.
That speed definitely sets the scene. Okay, so before we get stuck into ECO4 itself, we need to zoom out a bit, yeah? Look at the bigger picture. The government calls it the Warm Homes Plan. And it's not small change. We're talking about, what, $13.2 billion overall?
That's right, a huge commitment. It's this big strategy to, well, basically upgrade our homes, make them more energy efficient as standard, not just a luxury. And it helps households install all solar panels, heat pumps, insulation. That's a big one, even battery storage.
So it's not just one single thing then?
No, not at all. It's a whole package of measures. The main goals are pretty clear. Lower energy bills, good for everyone, and tackling fuel poverty, helping those who struggle the most. And ECO4 is part of it, but there's other stuff too. Like, they're looking at minimum energy standards for rented places, both private and social housing. Plus, there's a Warm Homes social housing fund that's basically building on the old social housing decarbonization fund. And something new, the Warm Homes local grant. That one's aimed specifically at low-income homeowners and private tenants, giving them direct help.
Okay, so ECO4, which is our main focus, it sits right in the middle of this big plan.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it's been around a while.
Yeah, the energy company Obligation Eco started way back in 2013, so it's got a long history.
And quite a track record, looking at the numbers. What sort of figures are we talking about?
Well, the numbers are pretty impressive on the surface. Up to June 2025, across all the different eco schemes, something like 4.3 million measures fitted in about 2.6 million homes. And ECO4 specifically. By June 2025, it had delivered nearly 876,000 measures in just over 260,000 households. The consultation document itself says it's having the biggest impact of all their current schemes.
Wow, okay. But have there been criticisms? I mean, with numbers that big, it can't all be smooth sailing, surely.
Oh, absolutely. You're right. Despite the big numbers, reaching everyone who's eligible has been a persistent challenge. Think about people in really rural areas or homes that are just, well, tricky to upgrade. And there have always been questions around the quality of some installations, how long they last. That's actually something this consultation seems keen to address with all the talk about consumer protection.
Right, quality and access, that makes sense. So fundamentally, ECO4 sounds like a key tool for greener, cheaper homes. But there's this deadline issue we mentioned. What happens if it just stops?
Well, that's the core problem, isn't it? ECO4 is set to finish on March 31st, 2026. If nothing changes, that date is like a cliff edge. Support for households just stops, vanishes.
And the supply chain. All those installers and manufacturers?
Huge uncertainty for them. It basically pulls the rug out from under them. Imagine planning your business around that, then suddenly it's gone. That's why this extension is being proposed.
Okay, so the proposal is to extend it. By how long?
They're suggesting adding between 6 and 9 months onto that March 2026 end date. And the reasons are pretty logical. Keep support going while the bigger Warm Homes plan gets fully up and running, give that certainty to the supply chain we talked about, and importantly, use that extra time to bring in better consumer protections. It's basically buying time for a smoother handover to whatever comes next.
So buying time. And what stays the same? The overall target for ECO4?
Yeah, the total amount of home heating cost reduction they need to achieve that obligation stays the same.
But something is changing, or rather not changing. The Great British Insulation Scheme, GBIS, that's not getting extended.
Correct. That's a really key point. GBIS is still set to end March 31st, 2026. No extension proposed for that one.
That feels significant, especially since they were linked. What do you read into that? Why not extend GBIS too?
It does suggest a bit of a strategic shift. GBIS was more about faster, maybe simpler insulation measures. Not extending it could mean they're focusing more on the deeper whole house retrofits under ECO4 and the wider warm homes plan. Maybe learning from how GBIS rolled out, perhaps? It's also worth remembering they made a change midway through, allowing suppliers to meet a big chunk up to 75% of their GBIS target by doing ECO4 work instead.
Ah, okay, so that linkage might have boosted ECO4 delivery anyway.
Exactly. It possibly reduced the need for lots of standalone GBIS activities, so letting GBIS end could just be about moving towards more integrated future schemes rather than lots of separate ones.
Interesting. And the consultation directly asks about this, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They want to know if people agree with extending ECO4 but not GBIS.
Yes. Question 1 is basically, do you agree with the 6-9 month ECO4 extension? And question 2 immediately follows up with, do you agree GBIS should not be extended? They want to know if stakeholders think that approach makes sense.
Right, making sure the puzzle pieces fit. Okay, let's get into some of the mechanics. This carryover business sounds important for managing the transition.
It's absolutely crucial. Carryover means if suppliers deliver more than their target under ECO4, they can count some of that surplus towards whatever scheme comes next.
So it smooths things out between schemes.
Precisely. It reduces risk for the suppliers, gives them flexibility, and helps keep the supply chain working steadily. It's not new either. They've had carryover since the very first ECO back in 2013. The proposal here is to let suppliers carry over up to 20% of their ECO4 obligation.
Okay, 20%. What about the specific targets within ECO4, like for solid wall insulation or those harder to treat EFG homes?
Good question. The proposal is those minimum requirements, the specific amount of work needed on solid walls and EFG properties stay at the same level, but suppliers would have until the new extended end date to actually meet them. So more time, but the target itself doesn't shrink.
Right. But carrying over savings from one scheme to another, that sounds like it could get complicated with scoring, couldn't it, if the rules change?
That's the tricky part. How do you value the work done under ECO4 rules when you apply it to a future scheme with potentially different scores for different measures? So they've proposed 2 ways to handle this conversion, and suppliers would actually get to choose which method they use for their carryover.
2 methods. Okay, what are they?
Method 1 is called the Global ABS Conversion Factor. ABS stands for Annual Bill Savings. This basically takes all the bill savings from your ECO4 carryover projects and converts them using one single factor to get a score for the new scheme. They'll publish an estimate of that factor, and it includes any existing ECO4 uplifts. It's kind of a broad brush approach.
Okay, one overall conversion rate. What's method 2?
Method 2 is measure specific. Here, if a specific measure you installed under ECO4, say cavity wall insulation, is also eligible in the new scheme, it just gets the score assigned to it under those new rules. But crucially, if a measure you carried over isn't eligible in the new scheme, it gets 0 score.
Ah, so potentially higher scores for some things, but a bigger risk if the rules change significantly.
Exactly. Method 1 is perhaps safer, more predictable across a mix of measures. Method 2 could be better if you focus on measures you're confident will still be highly valued, but it's definitely riskier. Suppliers will need to think carefully about which one suits their delivery best.
That's a really interesting choice for them. And again, the consultation asks specific questions here, right? About the 20% limit, keeping the minimum requirements, and whether these 2 conversion methods are actually the best way forward.
Yes. Questions 3, 4, and 5 cover those points. They explicitly ask if these 2 methods are the best solution and even invite alternative ideas.
And they even ask if certain types of measures maybe shouldn't be eligible for carryover at all. Question 6. They're really drilling down into the details.
They need to. Getting this transition right is vital for keeping momentum.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on from the technical bits.
Yeah.
Consumer protection. You mentioned this earlier. It seems like a big focus.
It really is. And frankly, it needs to be. Building and maintaining public trust is fundamental if these schemes are going to succeed long term.
We've all heard stories, haven't we? Poor installations, problems down the line.
Exactly. So the government's committing to reforms. It's a 2-stage thing. Some quicker fixes during the ECO4 extension itself, and then bigger, longer-term changes as part of the main warm homes plan.
What kind of things are they talking about?
Things like improving the audit process, more checks, better use of data to spot issues. They also want suppliers to take more responsibility for overseeing the quality of work and how consumers are treated. Plus, they mention recent updates to the PAS 235-2030 standards. Those are the technical rulebooks, essentially, for how retrofits should be done properly. It's all aimed at boosting confidence.
Makes sense. And are they asking for more ideas on this?
Yes. Question 7 is basically asking, what else should we be doing during the extension to improve consumer protection? They're looking for practical suggestions for that interim period.
Okay. And what about innovation? New technologies, new ways of doing things. How does that fit into this extension?
Well, the proposal here is quite straightforward. No new applications for what they call innovation measures, or IMs, will be allowed during the extension period.
Why is that?
The reasoning is mainly practical. The extension is only 6 to 9 months, which they argue isn't really long enough to properly review, approve, and then get new innovations delivered. It takes time.
But what about innovations already approved?
Good point. Any existing uplifts, those extra scores given for using approved innovations under ECO3 and ECO4, like the 25% or 45% uplifts, they will still be honored during the extension. So ongoing innovation isn't penalized.
Okay. And there was something called data light measures.
Yeah, those are usually smaller measures where less data is needed. The proposal is the same. No new applications allowed after March 31st, 2026. Apparently, there haven't been any applications for these under ECO4 anyway, so it doesn't seem like a major change in practice. The standard alternative way of assessing them remains, though.
So it sounds like they're putting new innovation on pause, briefly, just to manage the transition smoothly.
That seems to be the logic, yes. Focus on delivery and quality during the short extension while honoring existing commitments.
And predictably, there's a question on that too.
Question 8, the last one. Do you agree we shouldn't allow new applications for innovation or data light measures during the extension? Straightforward ask.
Right. So let's quickly pull all that together. We've looked at this proposed 6 to 9 month extension for ECO4, keeping it going past March 2026. It's designed to bridge the gap to the Bigger Warm Homes plan, keep support flowing to households, and give the industry some breathing room.
We talked about the details keeping the main obligation the same, but not extending the separate GBIS scheme. And we got into the weeds a bit on carryover, allowing up to 20% of savings to count towards future schemes, and those two different ways of calculating the value.
Plus, that really important focus on improving consumer protection and install quality, alongside pausing new innovation applications just for this short extension period.
That covers the main points, I think.
Yeah. And ultimately, this is important stuff for you listening. It affects potential help with energy bills, options for upgrading your home. It connects directly to how we heat our homes and meet those big climate targets. You know, looking at consultations like this, it really highlights a constant challenge, doesn't it? How do you manage these transitions between different government policies? How do you keep things stable enough for people and businesses while still allowing for necessary changes and new ideas, especially with something as vital and close to home as our energy use?
That's a great question. Balancing that stability with progress, especially during these policy shifts, it's a real tightrope walk.
Definitely something to think about.